We've heard way too many stories of people losing their pets to cops with a gun. Maximus, the 7-month-old pit bull puppy shot by a Cleburne cop, is a prime example.
I just don't understand why. It's so sad.
Now, one man and his dog, Coral, are training police officers and taking a bite out of cop-involved canine shootings.
After I saw the Cookeville, Tennessee incident where a family's dog got shot on the side of the highway, I started to realize that, law enforcement, they need training when it comes to dogs.
And Jim Osorio knows a thing or two about making split-second decisions on aggressive animal calls. He was on the force for 10 years.
As a past police officer myself, I know that from the experience, the officers need this training because there is no training in the academy for these officers on dogs.
His goal? Make sure fewer dogs end up getting shot, or worse, killed.
My class will actually teach them other options other than going to lethal force. How do you actually use the baton as a distraction tool more than a striking tool? Their taser, how do you properly deploy pepper spray? There's a lot of people afraid of dogs. That's why Coral comes into the classroom.
And Coral here is a busy pup. She helps out with the Dangerous Animal Task Force, is a certified search and rescue dog. She's even got her own merchandise. Talk about a hot dog.
Officers that are scared of dogs, by the end of the class, they're actually even petting Coral and even playing with her. What you taught me in the class actually worked.
Now that's positive.
Emphasis has been placed on law enforcement agencies lately to be more upfront about their practices, considering what has been going on in Baltimore and other parts of the country. And now it appears officers are under intense scrutiny for deadly confrontations with dogs. 47 ABC's Jabina Fortson has more.
An aggressive dog like
This is the sound of aggression from a canine. Police say 1 in 3 households nationwide have a dog, some of them extremely hostile. And prior to this week, Ocean View officers were not properly trained to handle them.
There's been an uptick, if you will, the last few years in lawsuits against police departments due to excessive force against dogs.
Chief Kenneth McLaughlin tells us they haven't had any cases of officers shooting dogs in Ocean View, but they're not waiting for this to happen. This training is a preventative measure, considering what the chief calls a concerning trend. A simple Google search shows news agencies across the country reporting cases of law enforcement officers shooting and killing dogs.
The basic academies don't teach these officers how to deal with these dogs. So this course is basically going to teach them, all the less lethal options on how to deal with these dogs.
The chief tells 47 ABC this is the first Canine Encounters law enforcement training program in Delaware. It teaches deputies and officers how to spot specific behavior and the body language of dogs using real-life examples, like when to call for backup.
He needs his backup so his backup can watch the suspect, because the suspect doesn't turn away and run. What if the suspect grabs a gun from his waistband?
This shows why an officer should never turn and run. Officers here learn how to properly approach a pet on a scene, using a firm voice, basic commands.
Everything's okay. Are you all right? All right. Okay, Coral. It's okay.
And then there's possessive aggression. I'm holding a treat, and if this dog weren't properly trained, she would probably bite my hand. In real life, the treat symbolizes everything from a toy to even a dog's owner. Taking their things triggers aggression, and the most important lesson learned, the weapon is always the last resort. Jobina Fortson, 47 ABC.
Ocean View PD hosted this one-day training course, but they opened it up to other local agencies that wanted to participate. Members of the Rehoboth Beach PD, Fenwick Island PD, and the Caroline County Sheriff's Office took part in this training. It's important to note that the training exercises shown in this story were for law enforcement officers. Head to our website, that is 47abc.com, where we have important information for civilians as well.
I'd rather officers try something else, and I believe the public wants officers to try something else way before they go into lethal force. An expert in police and dog encounters is in Boise tonight and speaking to law enforcement from all over the state about cutting down on fatal officer-involved shootings with dogs. Good evening. Welcome to the news at 6. We begin with this. If you have lived in the state of Idaho for any amount of time at all, you know we're a state that loves our dogs. And that's why when officers are confronted by an aggressive family pet and forced to take lethal action, it has a ripple-down effect in the entire community.
And we've reported on it many times. From November 2012 to February of 2014, there have been 7 officer-involved dog shootings, and they've been from Idaho Falls to Nampa to Boise to Coeur d'Alene to Filer. Our Andrea Lutz spoke with the instructor of this new Canine Encounters class about what he has seen and the work that officers are doing in the field and how what he's teaching can help. She joins us now live. Hi, Andrea.
Hey, you guys, it was a really interesting class that we were able to sit in for a little bit today. You know, I spoke with some of the officers that are on our streets here in Boise. They say there's not very many opportunities for them to learn about dog encounters. Sometimes they have to do online classes, and that's all the training they get. So today was really beneficial for them. But we also learned out today that Ada County dispatchers have now taken a very proactive approach as well. They adopted a new policy back in August, all because of these recent dog shootings. Jim Osorio came all the way from Texas to Idaho for a few really good reasons.
I know about the incidents like Filer, Nampa's had a couple.
His instruction to the 55 Idaho officers sitting in his class involves some new techniques.
You got to get comfortable with dogs.
And even some new tools, making room on an officer's tool belt for things like treats and toys. And when it comes to using a gun on a dog, Osorio says,
I recommend you don't even use it.
At the same time the class was going on down the hall in Ada County Dispatch, a new policy on dogs is already in place and being used.
We wanted to be involved in trying to prevent some of these incidents that had happened. Are there dogs in the residence? And if so, please secure those dogs.
Those are the questions every dispatcher will ask to cut down on interactions where a dog might get aggressive with a responding officer.
We're part of the team. We want to make sure that these situations have positive outcomes.
A positive outcome, Sergeant Matthew Crawford says officers want too. They have a lot to lose.
There are a lot of things that dogs can do to injure you that may take you out of your career. People are taking in the information, and even people that know a lot about dogs are getting more out of it.
A major thing that we learned today from the teacher of that class is that, you know, the public really needs to take a responsibility too. So if you have a dog, you've just recently adopted it, you need to make sure that that dog is trained, and you also need to make sure that it's been socialized for the public. He says we all have a responsibility here. That was something that was mentioned in the story. We all have a job to do.
Unhappy endings when it comes to officers and dogs have been highly publicized in recent years. Just last week, a Sulphur, Louisiana police officer resigned after he shot and killed a young Labrador mix, which a witness called unprovoked. The Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office is investigating that incident. Tonight in our Pet Project series, we show you how a Governor's Commission on Animal Welfare has partnered with Louisiana State Police to help our first responders better understand their encounters with canines. Now, a warning, this story does contain some graphic content.
Cookeville, Tennessee, 2003. Police shoot a family dog on the side of the interstate. Officers were asked to shut the car doors so he would not escape. The family was eventually awarded over $77,000. This incident, says Jim Osorio, is why he now conducts workshops across the country, teaching officers less lethal techniques when it comes to handling dogs.
Automatically, a lot of them just judge, oh my God, it's a dog, I'm going to get bit. And I want to try and break that.
He says the first step is understanding body language, as dogs are often misjudged.
The body language is going to tell you whether there's going to be a confrontation or not. If the dog is just standing there and he's not barking, hair's not up or anything like that, pretty much he's probably not going to bite. But if he's got the hair up and he's barking, he's growling or snarling, the officer needs to step back for a second and figure out what he's going to do before he approaches that situation.
Dozens of first responders across Louisiana attend Osorio's seminar at State Police Headquarters in Baton Rouge. State Police Colonel Mike Edmondson hopes officers will share this knowledge with their peers.
It's a perfect opportunity to put another tool in your toolbox as a police officer and how to deal with and interact with animals.
Colonel Edmondson emphasizes the need to respect canine companions.
I mean, they're protective of an area. If you go into a home where a dog is, you've got to understand that's that dog's home. They're going to protect that, and you have to understand that. And I think knowing that up front and dealing with it certainly helps you a lot.
2 Union Parish officers attended the workshop. Sheriff Dusty Gates says, quote, dog complaints are becoming a tremendous problem for the department. We've answered more than 1,000 complaints in the last 3 years. Osorio shows how his German Shepherd Coral can even be perceived as aggressive. As the workshop continues, she roams around the room looking for love and treats. Hilton Cole, a member of the Governor's Animal Welfare Commission, describes communication between officer and canine as complicated.
Police officers are trained to be an authority and to take charge of situations, and the dog is doing the same thing. This is his property, he's in charge of it, and the two clash. A whole department could get painted negatively after doing years and years of good work by one bad incident with an animal.
Now, this free workshop was the result of a partnership between state police and the Louisiana Animal Welfare Commission, of which I am a member. Now, for a complete list of agencies that attended the seminar, head to our website at myarklemis.com. Now, by the way, Osorio is scheduled to hold 2 days of workshops for the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office in August. Now, next week, Osorio has advice for officers and civilians on how to react if you think you're about to be attacked by a dog. We'll also hear how some hope to tweak training for those first responders.
The Northwest Ohio Dog Warden Association hosted a dog training today. The training was offered to officers who normally deal with animals and dogs. During the class, the instructor shows officers how to handle dogs under stressful situations and how to read their bodies. President of the Northwest Ohio Dog Warden Association, Rodney Cook, says learning when it's okay to shoot and when they shouldn't shoot could help save a lot of dogs in the long run.
When you go out on a call and you get out and the dog comes at you, you need to read the body language. If it's going to be aggressive, how you need to react is the big thing. Especially with us, all of us here are dog wardens or animal control. We need to go through training on how to read these animals. It makes it easier for us to capture them and easier for us to handle them and possibly, get them confined with the owner without doing any harm to the animal.
Cook says 13 counties were represented at the
police
dog
shooting
training.
of a family dog over in Woodville last fall sparked a lot of heated debate for calls for change. Moses was shot in the leg during a traffic stop. His leg was later amputated. Today, the village offered free training to more than 100 police officers and dog warden employees from around the region. 13 ABC's Lisa Guyton has the story from Sandusky County, all new at 6.
The focus of the training is to give officers non-lethal ways to deal with dogs when they're confronted with them on the job. Coral here is part of the training. Coral helps demonstrate some of the non-lethal options alongside her owner, Jim Osorio, who's a former police officer.
If the officer doesn't have the training, then the first thing they're going to do is they're going to pull their gun out. They're going to shoot.
Osorio says the training is about the safety of officers, dogs, and the community.
Shooting at an animal is different than shooting at a person. Animals are mostly, they're low to the ground, they're bobbing and weaving everywhere, and there's a lot of police officers that have a lot of stray shots, ricochets from shooting at an animal.
He's trained more than 20,000 officers in the last decade.
Most officers, they carry batons, OC spray, tasers, all kinds of less lethal tools they can use on a dog. But most officers aren't trained on how to use it on an animal. They're trained to use those tools on a person.
Ohio could become the next state to make dog training mandatory for officers.
This allows the Attorney General to require training for the peace officers throughout the state in dealing with canines. Here again, education plays a very important piece in trying to keep our community safe.
2 officers from the Cuyahoga County Metropolitan Housing Authority made the trip to Woodville. Both say they learned a lot of options other than deadly force that they will take back to their entire department.
The behavior of a dog, how it comes to you, or if it don't come to you, how he barks, if he's territory protecting his domain.
You're engaging in canines in almost every household that you go into, and understanding how to handle those situations and what to do. This is a real eye-opener in training for law enforcement across the board.
The free training session was paid for by the mayor of Woodville. Lisa Guyton, 13 ABC.
The
Action
police
News.
department is trying to prevent fatal dog shootings. All 1,700 officers have just completed a course on how to deal with aggressive animals when they are approached. In tonight's Crime Watch, Fox 7's Noel Newton talks with the man behind the training and shares his mission.
Walk back slowly.
In this dash camera video from Cookeville, Tennessee, officers pull over a vehicle they believe matches the description of one involved in a robbery. The occupants are instead a family, not linked to crime. As they are removed from the car, their dog comes out. Officers fire and kill it. It's this video that led former police officer Jim Osorio to teach law enforcement about aggressive animal behavior and appropriate response.
I'm not going to stop every dog shooting that's out there, but if I can put a dent in it and by giving training and slow it down a lot, then I'm doing my job.
He's trained Round Rock and Leander police. He most recently provided training for all 1,700 of APD's officers. APD has been involved in several controversial dog shootings in recent past. The last fatal shooting was dog Roscoe in April.
Hey, get that pit bull, get that pit bull.
Officers were cleared of any wrongdoing in that case. Osorio wants a gun to be an officer's last resort.
And that's what my class is about. I want to teach them everything else but pulling your firearm.
Osorio brings his dog Cora with him to show the difference between aggressive and non-aggressive behavior. He gave us a demonstration.
This is a dominant aggression dog by doing that.
Osorio teaches officers to have a less lethal tool ready, but out of the animal's sight at first approach. He says it's a must that officers talk to the animal.
The dog starts lunging at you, just push back to keep the dog away. Basically, I'm talking to you right now. This is how I would talk to the dog. Now, the reason why you do that is because you're telling the dog you're not a threat. And I tell officers, don't yell and scream, because if you yell and scream, they're going to think you're a threat.
Osorio applauds APD for training officers. In 2012, the department enacted a new dog policy ordering staff to go through an online course after a dog named Cisco was fatally shot. But Osorio says there is no comparison.
You can't ask a video, you can't ask a book a question, but you can ask an instructor that's got experience with dogs.
He encourages other departments to invest in training.
You shouldn't have to wait till an incident happens or something else happens. You should be training your officers because they're going to be dealing with these dogs all the time.
Noel Newton, Fox 7 News Edge.
And we've broken down the incident reports where Austin police officers used their firearms against what they deemed as dangerous dogs. Here's the list here. In 2010, APD officers discharged their firearms at 15 dogs. In 2011, 7 dogs. 2012, 21 dogs. And then in 2013, that's January through May, officers fired at 5 dogs they believed to be dangerous.
Deputies from Randall County are taking extra steps while they're on duty to make sure your dogs are safer. News Channel 10's Angelica Brown joining us live in the News Center to explain what's prompting this change.
The Randall County Sheriff's Office is making changes to make sure drawing their weapon is not the first option when confronted with an aggressive animal. About 2 months ago, the Randall County Sheriff's Office had an incident where a deputy shot and killed an Australian Shepherd.
The dog was being very aggressive and was coming at our officer. Yeah, that was a very unfortunate situation. And those kind of things we'd like to avoid.
The incident received a lot of attention and prompted the Sheriff's Office to change their policy of actions and strategies to help officers avoid deadly force against dogs.
We want to do the right thing.
Today began a 2-day course on canine encounters for all Randall County deputies.
Basically, I'm pretty much teaching the officers pretty much everything about the dog. Statistics about them, their body languages, types of aggressions a dog can show, how to approach the dog.
This course is needed because these deputies come across dogs on a daily basis.
There's 83 million dogs in the United States, and 1 out of 3 households that we're going to go to are going to have some kind of a pet, but most likely a dog.
But members of law enforcement are not the only ones who may deal with a dog on the job.
The meter readers, postal workers, UPS, FedEx.
Osorio offers his training to these types of jobs as well. His training teaches them ways to defend themselves without a weapon.
They always have something with them. So whether it's like a mailman, he has a mail, he might have his mail pouch with him. stuff that you can put in front of you to defend yourself with if the dog is going to be aggressive.
Although this training may not completely stop fatal shootings, the Randall County Sheriff's Office thinks this will better educate their staff to take steps before drawing their weapons.
If we can, lessen the threat by our behavior towards the animals, then maybe we can eliminate that from happening again.
The last day of training for the Randall County deputies is tomorrow. Reporting live in the News Center, Angelica Brown, News Channel 10.